Welcome to Quiz Time. I'm your quiz master, Sean, and I've got questions for you. 100 general knowledge questions meant to test your knowledge, your memory, to keep the brain paths working, to keep us young, and to have fun while doing it. So let's have fun! Which precious Roman hoard, discovered in Suffolk, held over 14,000 coins, jewelry, and household silver objects? The Hoxne hoard, the Mildenhall find, or the Staffordshire cache? That would be the Hoxne hoard. Which meteorite that landed in 2021 became the first in UK history to be recovered within hours of its fall? The Winchcombe meteorite, the Barwell stone, or the Iplopin fragment? And that was the Winchcombe meteorite. Which British archaeological law was directly influenced by a major 1992 treasure find on farmland using a detector? The Heritage Recovery Bill, the Monuments Protection Act, or the Treasure Act of 1996? It was the Treasure Act of 1996. What ancient Roman object, shaped like a woman's bust, was a luxury pepper shaker from the late antique period? The Hoxne pepper pot, the bath salt statue, or the Lullingstone perfume jar? And that was the Hoxne pepper pot. What prehistoric structure in Orkney features multiple connected stone homes, revealing Neolithic village life? The Maeshowe, the Skara Brae, or the Ring of Brodgar? And that was the Skara Brae. What archaeological discovery proved humans lived in Hoxne, Suffolk, over 400,000 years before the Romans arrived? Bronze shields, Neolithic wheel ruts, or flint tools in clay? And that would be flint tools in clay. What Roman villa in England features preserved mosaics and a rare early Christian symbol, likely from the 4th century? The Lullingstone Villa, the Fishbourne Palace, or the Chedworth Villa? And that would be the Lullingstone Villa. Which medieval herbal remedy, known to monks as knit bone, was used for healing broken limbs and severe bruises? Wormwood, angelica, or comfrey? And that would be comfrey. Which fermented fish sauce, popular across the Roman Empire, was mass-produced and stored in amphorae? Garum, defrutum, or silphium? And that would be garum. Which British cave revealed Ice Age art dating back over 12,000 years, including carvings of birds and bison? The Cresswell Crags, Goes Cave, or Kent's Cavern? And that would be the Cresswell Crags. Which late Roman ceramic fragment, shaped like a miniature amphora, was discovered at Hadrian's Wall military site? The Bath souvenir jar, the Vindolanda tiny amphora, or the Bath souvenir jar? It was a Vindolanda tiny amphora. Which medieval English drink, made from fermented honey, was often consumed during feasts and believed to boost vitality? Mead, elberry, or posset? And that would be mead. Mead's made from honey. Which unusual device from 17th century London allowed families to brew beer at home using malt and an open hearth? Hearth brewing cauldron, a malt mash fermenter, or the hearth malt boiler? And that would be the hearth brewing cauldron. What forgotten medieval English punishment required criminals to stand on a scaffold wearing a placard in public? Was that a pillory? Were they stocks? Or was it a cooking stool? And that would be a pillory. Which rare Roman glass tear bottle was designed to collect mourners' tears at funerals for symbolic preservation? The lacrimatory, the vitrium lacrima, or the unguentarium? And that would be a lacrimatory. Before digital clocks, what quaint Victorian phrase described the time when all clock hands aligned at 1:11 p.m.? The 1 pence afternoon, the 2 penny past 1, or the single penny time? That was called the tuppenny past 1. Which unique medieval English manuscript combined religious prayers alongside musical notation for early polyphonic compositions? The Sherborne Antiphonal, the Edwin Psalter, or the Winchester Trooper? And that would be the Winchester Trooper. Which Roman kitchen tool, shaped like a wide spoon with holes, was used for straining sauces or removing solids? Was it a column, a ligula, or a patella? And that would be a column. Which forgotten Victorian pastime involved betting on snail races held on pub tabletops during summer afternoons? Was that snail racing, sedge claiming, or escargot sprinting? That was snail racing. Which unusual early 1900s British job involved sending secret messages using trained birds across countries and coastlines? Was that winged mail messengers, aerial telegram clerks, or homing bird dispatchers? Those were homing bird dispatchers. Which 19th century scientist accurately predicted radio waves decades before they were practically demonstrated by Hertz? William Thomson, James Clerk Maxwell, or Michael Faraday? And that was James Clerk Maxwell. What structure in Peru remained hidden beneath vegetation until aerial photography revealed its complex terraces and temples? Was that Machu Picchu, Chan Chan, or Sacsayhuaman? And that would be Machu Picchu. What mineral, often confused with gold, misled many early prospectors due to its similar metallic sheen? Pyrite, galena, or bauxite? And that would be pyrite, or fool's gold. Which country sets its clocks 45 minutes ahead of its neighboring standard time? Bhutan, Sri Lanka, or is it Nepal? Who does that? That would be Nepal. What early 20th century engineering project dramatically reduced travel time between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans? The Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, or the Kiel Canal? And that would be the Panama Canal. Which ancient city was preserved under volcanic ash, offering historians unmatched insight into Roman daily life? Pompeii, Herculaneum, or Ostia? And that would be Pompeii. Which star's brightness has been observed to dim irregularly, leading to theories about orbiting megastructures or dust? Betelgeuse, Sirius B, or Tabby's star? And that would be Tabby's star. Which U.S. president served the shortest time in office, dying just 31 days after his inauguration? Was it William Henry Harrison? Was it James A. Garfield? Or was it Zachary Taylor? It was William Henry Harrison. What mysterious radio signal, detected once in 1977, is still considered one of astronomy's strangest anomalies? The wow signal, the black echo, or the alpha burst? It was the wow signal. What ancient script, once undeciphered, was key to understanding Egyptian hieroglyphs after the Rosetta Stone discovery? Phoenician, Linear A, or Demotic? And that was Demotic. What German engineer developed the first practical internal combustion engine powered by gasoline during the late 19th century? Was that Nicholas Otto, Rudolf Diesel, or Gottlieb Daimler? And that was Nicholas Otto. Which deep-sea trench contains the ocean's deepest known point, deeper than Mount Everest is tall? The Mariana Trench, the Tonga Trench, or is the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench? And that would be the Mariana Trench. Which philosopher is credited with writing Cogito ergo sum, meaning I think, therefore I am? René Descartes, John Locke, or Thomas Hobbes? And that was coined by René Descartes. Which disease did Edward Jenner help eradicate using a smallpox vaccine derived from cowpox in 1796? Was it smallpox, typhoid, or cholera? It was smallpox. Which massive rock formation in Australia holds deep spiritual significance to Aboriginal peoples and changes colors at sunset? Karajuta, Mount Augustus, or Uluru? And that would be Uluru. What is a term for a year with 366 days due to Earth's orbit requiring calendar correction? Is that a leap year, a sidereal year, or an eclipse year? That would be a leap year. What ancient civilization constructed a network of aqueducts and roads that still influence modern infrastructure design today? Would that be the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, or the Byzantine Empire? That would be the Roman Empire. Which historical Roman calendar tracked years by naming consuls in office rather than using sequential numbering? Was it the Ab Urbe Condita, the Olympiad Annals, or the consular dating system? That would be the consular dating system. What natural satellite has the most volcanic activity of any body in our solar system, surpassing even Earth? Io, Europa, or Ganymede? And that would be Io. What 17th century document in England limited the power of the monarchy and strengthened parliamentary authority? Was that the Bill of Rights, the Magna Carta, or the Petition of Right? And that would be the Bill of Rights. Which Polish scientist claimed the Sun, not Earth, is at the center of the solar system? Nicholas Copernicus, Johannes Kepler, or was that Tycho Brahe? And that was Nicholas Copernicus. Which Asian mountain is the highest above sea level and was the first submitted by humans in 1953? Was it K2, Mount Everest, or Kangchenjunga? And that would be Mount Everest. What invisible force causes ocean tides, keeps planets in orbit and was mathematically defined by Newton? Is that gravity, magnetism, or is it inertia? And that would be gravity. Which ancient Mesopotamian writing system used wedge-shaped symbols pressed into clay tablets? Is that Sanskrit, cuneiform, or hieroglyphs? And that would be cuneiform. What is the name of the Earth's innermost layer, composed mainly of iron and nickel? Is that the inner core, the mantle, or the crust? And that would be the inner core. Which French military leader made himself emperor and changed Europe's map in the early 1800s? Louis XIV, Napoleon Bonaparte, or Charles de Gaulle? Napoleon Bonaparte. Which international group was formed in 1945 to support peace and cooperation between nations? The United Nations, the League of Nations, or was it the World Bank? It was the United Nations. What element, essential for breathing, is the most abundant in Earth's atmosphere by volume? Is it nitrogen, oxygen, or carbon dioxide? And that would be nitrogen. Which Egyptian structure aligns precisely with cardinal points and remains one of the world's greatest architectural mysteries? Is it the Luxor Temple, the Sphinx of Khafre, or the Great Pyramid of Giza? It's the Great Pyramid of Giza. What term describes Earth's slow wobble over thousands of years, affecting climate and star positions in the sky? Is that axial precession, orbital drift, or solar regression? That would be axial precession. Which German scientist found X-rays in 1895, transforming how doctors diagnose internal health problems? Wilhelm Röntgen, Max Planck, or Heinrich Hertz? And that would be Wilhelm Röntgen. What river, flowing through Egypt, is widely recognized as the longest in the world? Would that be the Nile River, the Amazon River, or the Yangtze River? And that would be the Nile River. Which 20th century physicist developed the general theory of relativity, fundamentally changing our understanding of space and time? Was that Enrico Fermi, Niels Bohr, or Albert Einstein? That would be Albert Einstein. Which treaty, signed in 1919, formally ended World War I and redrew borders across Europe and the Middle East? Was that the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, the Treaty of Versailles, or the Treaty of Trianon? That was the Treaty of Versailles. What type of rock is formed from cooled lava or magma and is often found near volcanic regions? Igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic rock? And that would be igneous rock. Which British monarch reigned for more than 70 years, witnessing major global and domestic changes during her rule? Elizabeth II, Victoria, or was it George III? That would be Elizabeth II. What vast desert, covering most of North Africa, is the largest hot desert on Earth? The Gobi, the Kalahari, or the Sahara? And that would be the Sahara Desert. What important biological molecule carries genetic instructions used in the growth, development, and reproduction of all living things? Would that be the enzyme, hemoglobin, or DNA? And that would be DNA. Which invention, developed around 1450, revolutionized how Europeans read and shared information widely? The printing press, the telescope, or the mechanical loom? Of course, that's the printing press. Which artist from the Renaissance period sculpted David and painted the famous ceiling of the Sistine Chapel? Was it Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, or was it Raphael? And that was Michelangelo. Which ancient road, constructed by the Romans, connected the capital city to southeastern ports across Italy's peninsula? Was that the Via Augusta, the Via Flaminia, or the Appian Way? Appian Way. It was the Appian Way. Appian. What natural phenomenon causes the apparent bending of light when it passes through materials like water or glass? Is that called diffusion, reflection, or is it refraction? And that would be refraction. What dense celestial object remains after a massive star collapses, pulling in matter with immense gravitational force? Would that be a black hole, a neutron star, or a white dwarf? That would be a black hole. Which early human ancestor, discovered in Ethiopia, provided important clues about bipedal walking over 3 million years ago? Turkana Boy, Homo ergaster, Lucy, or Artie? And that would be Lusty, Australopithecus afarensis. What global event, beginning in 1347, caused the deaths of millions across Europe, Asia, and North Africa? Was it the Black Death, the Spanish flu, or the Justinian plague? And that would be the Black Death. What is the name of the economic system based on private ownership and profit-driven trade without central planning? Is that mercantilism, feudalism, or capitalism? And that would be capitalism. What vast ancient empire, once ruled by Cyrus the Great, stretched from the Mediterranean to the Indus Valley? Was it the Persian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, or the Macedonian Empire? That was the Persian Empire. Which part of the Earth's atmosphere holds the ozone layer that shields living beings from the sun's ultraviolet rays? Is that the troposphere, the stratosphere, or the mesosphere? That would be the stratosphere. Which invention by Alexander Fleming in 1928 changed medicine by fighting bacterial infections effectively? Was that penicillin? Was it morphine? Or was it insulin? And that was penicillin. What is a term for molten rock beneath Earth's surface that can erupt as lava through volcanoes? Is that magma? Is it basalt? Or is it pumice? And that would be magma. What mathematical concept represents the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, used in countless calculations? Is that sigma? Is it phi? Or is it pi? Of course, that's pi. What British document, signed in 1215, limited the king's power and laid the groundwork for constitutional law? Was it the Magna Carta? Was it the Act of Settlement? Or was it the Petition of Right? That was the Magna Carta. What term describes the movement of continents over geological time due to shifting tectonic plates beneath Earth's surface? The seafloor spreading? Is it continental drift or tectonic erosion? That would be continental drift. What gas, discovered by Joseph Priestley, is essential for combustion and supports most life on Earth? Nitrogen? Hydrogen? Or is it oxygen? And that would be oxygen. What massive Egyptian temple complex includes great hippo-style halls and was built over 2,000 years by various pharaohs? Is it the Dendera Temple, the Karnak Temple, or the Temple of Luxor? And that would be the Karnak Temple. Which German scientist offered the earliest experimental confirmation of electromagnetic waves in the year 1887? Was it Heinrich Hertz, Max Planck, or Wilhelm Röntgen? And that would be Heinrich Hertz. What invention allowed ancient sailors to determine direction using Earth's magnetic field, revolutionizing navigation? Was it astrolabe, magnetic compass, or was it the sextant? That would be the magnetic compass. Which astronomical event occurs when the moon passes directly between the Earth and the sun? Is that a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse, or is it a transit? That would be a solar eclipse. Which 19th century English naturalist proposed the theory of evolution by natural selection? Was it Gregor Mendel, Alfred Wallace, or was it Charles Darwin? And that was Charles Darwin. What prehistoric monument in England aligns with the sunrise on the summer solstice? Silbury Hill, Stonehenge, or Avebury Circle? And that monument is Stonehenge. What layer beneath Earth's crust contains slow-moving molten rock that drives tectonic plate movement? Is that the mantle, the core, or the lithosphere? And that would be the mantle. Which English physicist's three laws of motion formed the foundation of classical mechanics? Robert Hooke, Isaac Newton, or Stephen Hawking? And that would be Isaac Newton. What long-distance communication method used coded signals of dots and dashes transmitted via telegraph lines? Was it Braille, semaphore, or was it Morse code? And that was Morse code. Which ancient civilization constructed ziggurats, step-like temple towers for religious and governmental purposes? Was that the Sumerians? Was it the Babylonians? Or was it the Phoenicians? That was the Sumerians. What invisible barrier, theorized in the Cold War, separated Soviet-controlled territories from the West? Was it the Iron Curtain, the Berlin Divide, or the Red Border? It was the Iron Curtain. What astronomical term refers to the path a planet follows as it revolves around a star? Is it an orbit? Is it an axis? Or is it a meridian? And that would be an orbit. Which Polish labor union movement helped end communist rule and influence democratic reforms across Eastern Europe? Was it Solidarity? Was it the Unity Front? Or was it the Free Workers' League? It was Solidarity. Which river in South America carries the largest volume of water and supports the world's largest rainforest? Is that the Amazon, the Orinoco, or the Paraná? And that river is the Amazon. Which Roman engineering marvel carried fresh water from distant sources into cities using gravity alone? Was that the Forum, a cistern, or the aqueduct? And that would be the aqueduct. What type of energy, generated from Earth's internal heat, is harnessed through geysers and underground steam? Is that geothermal energy, hydroelectric power, or solar thermal energy? And that would be geothermal energy. Which Greek philosopher taught Alexander the Great and founded a system of logic still studied in modern philosophy? Was that Socrates? Was it Aristotle? Or was it Plato? And that was Aristotle. Which type of rock forms when existing rocks are changed by intense heat, pressure, or chemical processes? Does that form metamorphic rocks, sedimentary rocks, or igneous rocks? That's what forms metamorphic rocks. Which Mesopotamian ruler created a code of laws carved onto a tall stone stele? Was that Sargon the Great, Ashurbanipal, or was that Hammurabi? That was Hammurabi, the Code of Hammurabi. Which 20th century agreement formed the military alliance known as NATO, uniting Western nations against potential threats? Was that the Atlantic Peace Pact, the Geneva Accord, or the North Atlantic Treaty? And that was the North Atlantic Treaty. What term describes the Earth's slight tilt change over millennia, affecting the severity of seasons? Is that obliquity, nutation, or solar drift? The term for that is the first one. Which non-reactive gas, identified in 1898, is commonly used in lighting and makes up under 1% of the Earth's atmosphere? Neon, argon, or krypton? That would be argon. Which theory by Einstein explains how gravity can bend light and distort time near massive objects? Is that special relativity, quantum theory, or general relativity? And that would be general relativity. Which continent contains both Earth's tallest mountain and its deepest land depression? Is that South America, Asia, or Africa? And that continent would be Asia. Which 14th century English rebellion was sparked by attacks on peasants and led by Wat Tyler? Was that the Peasants' Revolt, the Corn Laws Uprising, or the Lollard Rebellion? That was the Peasants' Revolt. And now question 100. Which part of the cell acts as the control center, storing genetic material and directing activities? Would that be mitochondria, or cytoplasm, or is it the nucleus? And that would be the nucleus. And that's it. That's all I've got for you. You have done an amazing job. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and share your score in the comments, please. And since you're here, check out these videos right here. They're also a lot of fun. Put a lot of effort into them. Anyway, I'll catch you next time. Have a good one.